panel we have today is the Polkadot investment landscape, featuring moderator Rachel Wolfson, reporter at Cointelegraph, Joey Krug, co-chief investment officer at Pantera Capital, Jacob Phillips, who's a crypto researcher at Polychain Capital, and Jingcheng Li, managing director at FBG Capital.
Hi, it's Rachel.
Hey, Rachel, how's it going from Hawaii?
I'm doing well. I'm in the Bay Area right now. But
oh, you're back?
I am, but I'll be back in Hawaii next month or so.
Still jealous. Joey's reconnecting. I will jump off the screen. I've given you the brief introductions, but not the full intro. I'll leave that to you, Rachel.
Okay, sounds good. Great, wonderful. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Wolfson. I'm a reporter with Cointelegraph and a blockchain analyst with Quantum Economics. So I'm really excited to be moderating the investor.
Immediately lost Rachel.
I'm here. Did you guys lose me?
Yeah, you can just restart from the top.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. So yeah, my name is Rachel Wolfson. I'm a reporter with Cointelegraph and a blockchain analyst with Quantum Economics. I'll be moderating today's investor panel. I'm just going to have the panelists briefly introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into questions. Jacob, would you like to start off by introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, for sure. I can kick it off. I'm Jacob Phillips, crypto researcher at Polychain. I joined about a year and a half ago. I work kind of across the liquid and venture portfolio, and then specifically have been helping out with sourcing and diligence for some of our ecosystem funds, one of which is the Polkadot ecosystem. Before that, I was finishing up school and did some kind of traditional finance work, I think, while I was in school. And, one thing led to another. Ended up at an accelerator that was focused on blockchain. They forced me to sit down and look at the tech. And, then I got hooked. And now I'm here.
Awesome. Jingcheng, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Jingcheng Li, Managing Director at FBG Capital. So right now I'm leading the primary market investment and also the quantitative trading related investment in the secondary market.
Wonderful. And Joey, would you like to introduce yourself?
I already went, but I'm Joey from Pantera Capital.
Okay, sounds good. Let's kick it off with the first question. So Polkadot recently released a detailed roadmap for the highly anticipated rollout of parachains and slot auctions, which should mark the full launch of the protocol. That being said, is now a good time to invest in Polkadot's DOT token? And anyone can start.
I don't know that I can make a claim on when exactly it's a good time to invest in Polkadot's token, but maybe thinking a little bit broadly, Polkadot has had, I think, an incredible run in terms of community development. And, up to this point, I think there's been a lot of really, really promising things we've seen. There's been tremendous developer interest from inside and outside of Ethereum. There's been off the charts like investor interest, so much capital, I think, flooding towards Polkadot projects, recognizing that it may be sort of the next great ecosystem outside of Ethereum to develop. You see like a community that's developing in a very geographically distributed manner. So like the China Polkadot ecosystem is, the development there has been crazy. Europe, people in the US are interested in it. I think it's all over the place, which has been promising. And then I think a lot of the underlying theses that Polkadot was built on, specifically around application-specific blockchains, have started to play out. And so I think there's a lot of reason to think that Polkadot has a lot of promise going forward. So definitely one that people should sort of keep an eye on, I think.
Right. Did the other panelists have anything to add on to that before I go into the next question?
So I think the short answer is yes.
Okay.
So probably
next question.
You can see
so DOT has rallied to new all-time highs recently. Do you think this is a good long-term investment?
I'll keep it short. So for first question, probably yes, because since the announcement of you can tell the Kusama auction is going to arrive probably this month. So you can see the Kusama's performance. Actually, right after announcement, probably is 250. Today is close to 380. So in short term, kind of these auctions will boost the demand actually in the token in short term. So when the Polkadot ecosystem, probably the auction slot is going to arrive sometimes in April. I think the short-term actual demand for that token will also increase. Probably will have some buying powers in the token itself from the probably short-term event trading perspective. I think yes, but in terms of the long-term or mid to long-term, probably a lot of factors will be considered. First will be the global macro system, because everything related to the price of Bitcoin. And so then if the price of the Bitcoin appreciates, and so the value of the actual altcoin sometimes will, based on the nature of the high beta issues, so then probably will increase a lot. So then in mid to long term, a lot of people actually right now realize that the value of the Bitcoin, I think that's a lot of large institutions come into the market, and so then it's kind of a lot of support in the Bitcoin. So right now, the total market cap of the crypto market probably close to 2 trillion. So there is no doubt, so the crypto markets will go to, let's say, at least 1 trillion, sometimes in this year or next year. So if you can tell, the dominance of the Bitcoin probably right now is 60%. If blockchain technologies go to the mainstream because of the DeFi, because of the NFT recently, probably I think the dominance of Bitcoin probably will go down, sometimes 50%. So that's kind of a lot of room for the altcoin, not only for Ethereum, but also for Polkadot system. So then in mid to long term, I believe in Polkadot, if you can tell a lot of good projects right now built on top of Polkadot system. And so then I think that still have some values to bring to the Polkadot, the token itself. So then I think probably in 2 or 3 years, we will see the value of the Polkadot will come out, just like what Ethereum did. I think it's still early stage right now for the price discovery for DOT token.
Awesome. Joey, do you want to comment on either of those questions?
Sure. So I think one thing that's really interesting about Polkadot from our perspective at Pantera is, for years there's been people saying that they'll create something that's, alongside Ethereum in terms of the layer 1 blockchain. And for years, we haven't really seen anything. But I think now is sort of the first time when I look at new deals coming to us at Pantera, it's still new, but I would say the split is 90% Ethereum, 5% a long laundry list of various random stuff, and then 5% are projects building on top of Polkadot. And so that's really significant to me, because that's the first time I've seen that for any other blockchain, where it's sort of like consistently 90% Ethereum. There's always 5% random stuff. That's just like always what you see as an investor. But it's the first time I've seen 5% on one specific other chain, which I think is quite significant for the positive side of the DOT ecosystem. In terms of like where the price is today, I don't have a super strong view. I can say that Pantera has a very large DOT position, so we're bullish on the project. I don't, have a super specific view. Like, I think I looked this morning, it was $34, $35. Is that the right price for DOT? I don't know, but I think we're bullish on it from a long-term perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And even though the majority of projects are still building on ETH, everyone in the back of their minds, either on like the roadmap slide or somewhere kind of in discussion, is talking about Polkadot as like the next ecosystem they're looking to expand to, perhaps outside of Ethereum.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next question. Thank you, guys. It's been predicted that DOT tokens are projected to increase by mid-2021, almost 20 to 25%. Do you think this prediction is accurate? Joey, do you want to start off by taking that one?
Sure. I mean, I have no clue. I mean, I'd say we're bullish on the price of DOT. Like, otherwise we wouldn't hold the position, right? So I think we're excited about it. Whether it's 20 to 25%, I'm not sure. My personal view actually is that by the end of this bull market, DOT will go up more than 20 to 25%. Obviously that's not investment advice. That's just our internal view at the firm. But I think, so it wouldn't surprise me. It actually also wouldn't surprise me if it went up more. But I think that's kind of how we think about it.
Awesome. Any other responses, Jacob or Jingcheng? Jingcheng, I can't hear you. So if you do say something, Jacob, just let me know.
Okay. I can answer the question. I think probably
okay.
The price percentage. I think if if everyone follow the market, and so then related to Bitcoin, as I mentioned. So actually there is a, newsletter come up from Pantera, from them, right, to your investor, follow the stock to flow model, and the Bitcoin price in the middle of the year probably will surpass 100K. So then if you come up the calculations, actually for the Bitcoin price appreciation from the 60K to 100 is kind of over 60%. So then you come back to DOT, and so actually the high beta, and so this kind of phenomenon. So I think that if everything holds for Bitcoin, the price appreciation for DOT, I think will be much higher compared to, let's say you mentioned 25 to 30. So I saw in the middle of this year, let's say doubled or even tripled. I'm not that kind of surprised if everything happened like that.
Great.
Jacob, did you want to add to that before I go into the next question?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I don't know what the price is going to do in the short term, but I know that there's been a lot of really fundamental activity, I think, developing in this ecosystem. So I think, like Joey and Jingcheng, I am, bullish long term, and that's kind of all that matters here.
Got it. Okay, great. Next question. Is Polkadot a better investment than newly minted coins? Why or why not? Anyone can start with a response to that.
I'll take that one. So I think the way I see it, it depends on the newly minted project, right? I do think one thing that's going to develop in this market that I'm pretty confident in is as DOT's price continues to rise, people are going to look at it and say, oh, that's expensive. People do that with investments. And they're going to say, what can I invest in on top of Polkadot that is cheap from a relative standpoint? And so I do think, this full disclosure, Pantera is an investor in Akala. I think Akala is a really interesting project built on top of Polkadot. And there's going to be other projects like Akala or other projects that are building DeFi things on top of DOT. And I think we will see kind of a bit of a hype cycle or exuberance surrounding that. Because when you look at DOT, people are going to eventually say, maybe not at $34, maybe it's $50. There's some level where the market's going to say, oh, that's expensive from a retail investor standpoint. I want to invest in something cheaper built on top. And so I do think that's a dynamic that will play out. But of course, it depends on the project, because if you look at early stage investments, it always follows power law. 70% of stuff is useless. 20% is kind of maybe you make a small multiple, but risk adjusted, it probably wasn't worth it. And then there's 10% that are actually really good projects where investing in that is an amazing risk reward. So that's how I think about it.
Got it. Jacob or Jingcheng, did you want to jump in on that one at all?
Yeah, I'll jump in maybe with just one comment, and that would be that I think Joey's absolutely right that people recognizing that Polkadot as a platform has a lot of potential will start to look for projects on Polkadot that could have some success and a thriving ecosystem. And I think a lot of that has, or correction, some of that has already happened already. We see Polkadot projects, pre-Parachain launch trading at valuations of, very high, some above $1 billion fully diluted, which is a little bit crazy to think about. And I think it highlights the excitement around the ecosystem, but also highlights, a lot of what's being priced in. And, when Parachains launch, this isn't just going to be day one Polkadot competing head on with Ethereum. This is a longer term game for sure. And I would just be, I think we've really been approaching, I think a lot of investors in this space have been approaching some of these projects on Polkadot with a very sort of selective lens, recognizing that there is a frothiness in the air. And I think that there are some projects perhaps that people are going to get sort of burnt out of this, I think. It's sort of like any project that announces they're building on Polkadot gets assigned some premium in liquid markets, and people have sort of recognized that. And so it's important to be really careful about choosing teams who are long-term focused and really understand the value of Polkadot and are using it to the fullest of potential rather than just building on Polkadot because it'll pump the token price. And a lot of times you can tell that by looking at their token distribution strategy and kind of their launch plans. If they're overly focused on the token, it generally can be seen as a negative signal, kind of a short-term money grab. But I think a lot of the teams who are, sort of, optimizing token distribution for sort of long-term community alignment. Those are the teams you want to bet on in this space.
Got it. Jingcheng, did you want to add anything to that? Jacob, let me know if he.
Yeah, I think probably there is one important issue is the capacity of those kind of investments. So for example, from the institutional perspective, so then we have large capitals, so then we want to put in some of the secured assets. I think Polkadot is kind of one asset, but for those actually has high risk reward appetite investors from the retails, they are looking for, or if some VCs want to have high returns, they probably will looking for those new minted projects has high potentials in the futures. Because a simple way is to compare the price appreciation with ETH, probably tenfold from last year, and you say Aave, so it's a top DeFi project, so it's easily 100-fold. And so then if you actually have large capitals, I want to have a secure return, probably the Polkadot is a good way. But if you have small amount of capitals chasing the higher returns, you probably need to look at the new minted project, and also especially the high quality project with solid team. I think that's the perspective from the capacity of the capital and also the risk reward you want to chase.
Awesome. I think we're good to move on to the next question.
Perfect. Okay. So this one's kind of relevant right now, considering the NFT boom that we're seeing. Polkadot has also become a platform for NFTs. So from an investor perspective, do you have any thoughts on the impact of this or what it could mean for the space? Joey, do you have any thoughts that you want to kick us off with?
I mean, I think on the NFT side, I'm definitely not like a social investor. So I'm probably not like the greatest person to ask, but I think like I do think there's something real there. If you look at like what's happening with NFTs in art, and also what's happening in the music industry with NFTs, I think it's going to become like more and more popular. I mean, it's already happening. In terms of Polkadot, one thing that is a problem with NFT space right now is it's quite expensive. If you're an artist and you want to issue an NFT piece of artwork, maybe you're just getting started. Like I actually was playing around with this last night. It was costing me like $200 on ETH to do that. And so like I could totally envision people doing this on parachains where the cost is in cents as opposed to hundreds of dollars. And so that should encourage more experimentation and also allow artists who aren't super famous to get started with kind of lower cost pieces. And so I think like that's one element that I think Polkadot could definitely get some traction with in the NFT space.
Okay. Jacob, Jingcheng, did you want to jump in on that question at all?
Yeah, I think part of the goal for Polkadot kind of in its early days is just to sort of rebuild all the primitives that we've seen built on ETH in kind of a Polkadot flavor. And so, obviously DeFi was the first one to pop up, and NFTs have had a lot of success, I think, as of recently, and have drawn a lot of interest into the space that, even DeFi, I think, couldn't bring in. And so there's definitely exciting things happening in the space. And I would probably caution a little bit that like the NFT space, I think, is still pretty early in its development. And, it'll take some time, I think, for things to, I think it's maybe a little bit harder to bootstrap an NFT ecosystem perhaps than it has been with DeFi and kind of free flowing liquidity. And so I do think it'll be a little bit more of an uphill battle, but to Joey's point, I think there's some really interesting things that could come out of the Polkadot ecosystem, specifically using the Polkadot's technology to optimize for NFTs. Things like gaming and I think any sort of application that requires like a lot of minting or a lot of trading of NFTs has been really difficult to do on Polka or on Ethereum for obvious reasons related to cost and scalability. And these are the kinds of things that could be unlocked by sort of new underlying architectures of parachains on Polkadot.
Got it. Jingcheng, did you want to jump in?
Yep. So if you look at the current, the NFT market, so majority, I think 99% of the apps are actually built on top of Ethereum. So then from OpenSea, Red Rose, and also other marketplace. Only one, that's NBA Top Shop, built off Flow. And so I think probably the NFT market is still at the early stage. And so then actually, if we want to go to Main Street, Of course, it will meet some interoperability issues and the scalability issues. But right now, I think the market is still find the application, how to bring the traditional art community and also to the digital communities. So then once we meet the interoperability and also scalability, I think there is a use case for Polkadot ecosystem and also those technologies. But one thing I want to mention from the primary market perspective, we see some of the project right now target NFT sectors using Polkadot ecosystem. So one way when I talk to them why they use Polkadot system, because the user friendly and also the community is much more friendly compared to Ethereum. I don't know why, but there's some project mentioned that all the Polkadot developers and also from the Web3 foundations are more willing to help them to grow from the scratch. And so to help them hands on hand how to use the technologies and also achieve those goals. So that I think probably we will see a very interesting project from the Polkadot system in terms of the NFT. But right now, I still think that the NFT market still find the use case and how to actually bring the traditional markets to the digital world. Yep.
Awesome. I think we're good to go to the next one.
Perfect. Okay. So we actually have 5 minutes left in the panel. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to start taking questions from the audience. So I want you guys watching us just to drop some questions over in the chat, and I'm going to start taking those. I'm just seeing if we have any so far. It looks like Kavothi is asking if anybody's excited about Polka City. I don't know if that's a question or just a comment, but okay. So yeah, drop your questions below in the chat. I guess since there aren't so many right now, I'm just gonna, okay, here's a question from David Rodas. He's saying, can you speak to what you think is a good token distribution model that signals the team is in it for the long run?
Yeah, maybe I can jump in quickly with this question since I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but like one thing I think that's really important to think about is because of the way liquid markets are rewarding. I mean, we've seen similar things in DeFi too, right? It's like any DeFi project that's like semi-legit launches at some huge valuation and founders in theory can get sort of like a quick buck out of that. A similar thing is developing the Polkadot ecosystem. And so when you look at some of these projects, you can sort of tell like if it appears that the founder is optimizing for value, like short-term value or value early in the stage of the network, in a way that allows the kind of like team to benefit. I mean, the short of it is you want your token distribution and sort of vesting schedules to optimize for 3 years success of the project, 3, 5, 10 years success of the project, rather than some like kind of short-term situation. And so while you can do some of these things like, these like public sales or different kind of like ICO like models that might, sort of pump the token in the short term or launch with like an incredibly low float. While these may, boost the token price in the short term, what it doesn't do is it doesn't help with like community distribution, I think, in the right way. And so like what we really prefer to see is like teams building without a focus on the token so much. I mean, the short of it is like when we hear pitches, if so much of the pitch is focused on like the public sale or the launch plan of the token, that to us ends up being a red flag. Like the focus should not be on the token. The token is just sort of like the mechanism I think you strap on to a really cool product or tech. And so, the goal here is, I think, to sort of have that be kind of like a secondary thought rather than the primary thought. And so, I think optimizing token distribution such that, over the course of a couple of years, the community ends up in kind of like the community ends up holding most of the token supply rather than it being really centrally allocated to like just the team or some like big foundation, or being sold entirely in a public sale for the benefit of like the team over the short term. I think that there's a broad range of things I think that can sort of be sort of turns off in terms of token distribution, but the goal ultimately is to use, I think, a lot of the kind of models that we've seen work so far in DeFi and on Ethereum, and kind of port those over into the kind of parachain model, focusing on sort of making sure that you're optimizing for sort of like the long-term game rather than the short-term game.
Okay, one thing quick to add on that. On that question is, we think that in general the token economies in current primary markets is much better compared to those ICO projects in 2017 and 2018. That's one reason, because they value the community a lot compared to the previous project. Because in previous ICO 2017, 2018, they have a lot of different private sale for different investors and different investings. So then different price, different vesting, and then the last price is the retail and also a lot of retail investors lost a lot of money because of all this bad token design. But right now, I think in DeFi, in current, because the green mining program and also the airdrop to the community, and also we see a lot of fail launch projects right now. There is no private investors at the first place. It's much fail compared to those project token economies in 2017. As in general, to Jacob's perspective, is I think the project and also the token design should be in line with the long-term development of the project. You cannot imagine that project can be success just in 1 year or let's say 6 months, right? So for those projects should at least a couple of years, 3 to 5. So it should in line with the project itself and also the large token holders from the communities.
Great way to end. Thank you very much, all. Rachel, if I don't think you can hear me, I think you're also frozen. We're dragging Crowdcast to the end of this event. Thank you all for participating.